Hi there and welcome back. It's Lisa from Critters'n Ink Designs in Ontario, Canada. And today I'm going to showcase the 4 cards that I had for this month's card club. So why don't we get started, because it's going to be like a long video. I'm doing 4 cards. I'm going to scooch down to my desk here. And this is the first card that we're going to do. And I actually cased this right out of the catalog. But it is so stinking cute, isn't it? Love it. Okay, so I'm using the Fancy Borders bundle for this, and I'm going to use the row of hearts die for the front of the card. So for the card, you need a basic white thick card base, and then I have just layering weight of the regular basic white, and it's 4 by 5 1/4, and then I have a piece here to cut out my leaves, and then I've punched out using the hexagon punch. This is what is this? This is the Country Woods designer paper, and I will pop the number up on the screen when I edit the video, but it's 163393 is the part number for that. So let's go ahead and cut out our hearts. So the first thing I'm going to do is determine where the center of my cardstock is. So let me move this up. So it's 5 1/4. So 2 and 5/8. Oh, yeah. I think 2 and 5/8 is the middle. I have a center ruler here. Let me just check. Yeah, 2 and 5/8 is the middle. So I'm just going to put a little tiny check mark there, and let me grab my cut and emboss machine right here. And I'm not sure if you caught my live the other day. I actually gave this a bath because I was finding that all the little bits of paper that get stuck in there was transferring onto my cardstock. So I gave it a bath. I used one of those round, the round kitchen brushes that you can put soap in the top. And I just scrubbed the daylights out of it. You would not believe the color of the water. It was unbelievable. But it's nice and clean now, and it's not transferring. I just had a bit of glue there. It's not transferring color anymore, so that's great. So I've got the center of my cardstock. So the first set of hearts I'm going to do is right dead center. So I'm going to pop that onto there. Like that. And so to make sure that my hearts are all lined up all the way down, I'm using this little circle. If you look here, you can see there's like a little hole. And I'm using that to line up right at the edge, so that I know that all my hearts, as I go down the rows, they're all going to be lined up. So let me line that up. That looks pretty straight. Okay, and I'm just going to run that through. All right, so there is row number 1. Now you're going to have a whole pile of these little hearts all over your plate, all over the place. So if you drop your die, they will pop out. And then my next row is, I'm going to put it like 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. And I'm lining up that little hole again right on the edge. And I might just pop a piece of tape to hold it there. I don't really want it shifting. There. And I'm just lightly putting it on there. I don't want the tape to tear my paper. So does that look straight? Not really. There, that's better. Okay, so let's run that one through. Okay, so there's row number 2, and then I'm going to do the same for the top. Okay, just poke that out. All right. Okay, and then I'm going to line this up 1/4 of an inch from the top. Oops. Looking good. Okay, and then for the 2 centered ones, just grab my take your pick tool here. And I just think this is so pretty. This would make a great wedding card. I think it's gorgeous. Oh, like a little mark there. Okay, and then I'm going to center this as best as I can. If it's not 100%, I'm sure it's not going to matter. But that looks pretty centered to me. There we go. Okay, so that's that for this. It's a very simple card. It goes together super quick. There, I can get rid of that. Okay. So, there's not much to this card, to be really honest with you. So, I have my front is made, and I've got my piece of scrap here for my leaves. And I'm just going to grab my little leaf stamp. And I need my basic black. So I need, I only use 3, but I'm going to cut out 4. Now there isn't a die for these. You do have to fussy cut them, but they're quick to fussy cut. All right, so we don't need this anymore. And I'm just going to use my Granny Apple Green and my Lemon Lime. Oops, not that one. Granny Apple Green. And Lemon Lime Twist. I actually threw them in the garbage. Okay, so I've got my light Lemon Lime Twist, and I'm just going to color the whole leaf. And I'm being a little bit heavy-handed with the ink because the wetter it is, the better it's going to blend. Okay, and then I'm going to take my light Granny Apple, and I'm just going to go in the bottom here a little bit, just to give it a little bit more color, like this. And you can see how it's blending here. So I have a little bit of dark and a little bit of light. There, that just looks really pretty. All right, so let's do the next one. I think it's supposed to go up to 20 degrees today in Ontario, so I'm going to go for a bike ride this afternoon. All right, so I'm going to go in here with my granny apple. And I'm just going to go back in with the lemon lime twist just to blend that out a little bit. But you can see it's blending quite nicely by itself. Let me zoom in a bit. Maybe you can see the colors a little bit better. Yeah. Okay, which one is this? Lemon lime twist. So I can go ahead and do this one. This one didn't stamp out the greatest, so I'm just going to use these three. There, beautiful. Okay. Is that the right color? Nope. I put the wrong lid on the wrong pen. That's okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to fussy cut these guys out. And it won't take long. They're not very big. There. Okay, so those are cut out. So I have my three little leafy things here. And then I'm going to take a wink of Stella. And I'm going to highlight three of these little hearts just to make them kind of glittery. And this is optional. You absolutely do not have to do this, but you know me, I love my wink of Stella. And I'm only doing three. If you want to do like 5 or a few more, totally up to you. It's your card, right? Do what makes you smile. Okay. All right, so now I have still in the fancy borders, I have Sent with Love. And I've already punched out my little hexagon, so I'm going to stamp that onto there. Memento. So what I've done, I find with the linen, nothing against Memento. I love Memento. I've put Memento in here. So what I've done is I have taken the white stamp pad that comes uninked. When you buy the white craft ink, you have to ink it yourself. So what I did was I took a refill of the Memento and I made this into a Memento stamp pad, and I love it. I just find personally I get a better stamp using the spongy ink pad. Like, look at how much ink I get. All right, so I'm going to stamp this right here. I want to make sure that's straight. Like that. Beautiful. Okay, so let's put this little puppy together. All right, so I'm going to fold my card's base. I'm going to use the corner of my trimmer, and I'm just going to push all the corners into this corner here. And what that does is it lines up all your 4 corners so that they're totally flat. And then you're going to get a nicer card base. Because I find if I try to do it just by hand, I always end up with one corner being a little lopsided. So this works really well for me. You can use the inside of your scoreboard, or whatever works for you. So here I have a package, or I had, what did I do with them? a package of the foam strips. And on the back side of this, I'm just going to flip this over and I'm going to put foam strips all through it because I want this to be elevated. Now I'm going to be sure that I'm not over a heart or like into a heart or over the edge at all. There. And then I'll just put this little one here. I probably don't need it, but that's okay. I'll take another strip. I love these foam strips. I use them so much. Now here, I probably could have gone a little bit higher. Is that going to show? Nope, I'm good. Okay. And then I'm going to pop this piece here in the middle. There. So easy. So let's peel off these strips. Maybe. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to center this right in the middle. There we go. And I'm going to take some mini dimensionals. Where's my take your pick tool? And I'm just going to pop a mini dimensional around the card, like randomly. So, and what I've done is I've popped it under the little point of the heart here because I don't want it sticking out, and I'm going to take that off. And then pop one of my cards, one of my little shiny hearts right in there. And then grab another one. You know what, I probably should put this up first. So let's pop some dimensionals on here first, and then I can place my other hearts. There we go. All right, so I'm going to put this kind of here. And then we have our leaves to go on as well. And for the leaves, I'm just going to put a bit of glue on the front of the stem. And then I'm just going to stick it under here and press down so that it sticks. And it'll stick to my panel here. Okay, and I'm going to take a second one. Now, one thing I didn't do, if you wanted to do, I did on my first card, I totally forgot on this one, is to take a black marker. I'll show you on this other piece here. There, that's going to stick there. So I took, where is it? Well, you know what? I can't find my Stampin' Right marker. It's usually right here. I took a marker. I'm just going to use my blend. And I just went around the edges of my cutout, so that you don't see any of the white. And then that way it just looks a little bit more I don't know, finished, I guess. There's just a little bit of white in here. I'm just going to color that. There, beautiful. Okay, so a little bit of glue. I'm going to stick that right in there. Beautiful. Now this will pop up. There. Okay. And then I also took one of the little hearts, and I've got, so I'm just going to use some Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to go there. Okay, so, all right, so I've got my 2 Wink of Stellas left, and I've got my little pink heart there. So I'm just going to put a little dab of glue over here and pop my pink one on there. Oops. Of course it's going to flip wrong side up. Gotta love it. There, beautiful. Now this one I actually did stamp the heart, but I figured I have all these hearts, so rather than have to fussy cut a little heart, I'm just using that one. And then I'm going to grab a couple more of these little dimensionals, and I'm going to pop one under here. So one in there, and maybe one over here. There we go. Okay. Oh, this one's being cantankerous. Get in there. There we go. Good grief. All right, and of course you need some gems. So let me grab, I have this package of Opal Rounds assortment, and I still have a few of the clear ones left in here, so I'm going to pop a few of those on. I'll pop one over here. You could use a color if you wanted to use Flirty Flamingo. You could absolutely do that. I'm going to pop one on there. And let's take a small one, and we'll pop it over here, minus the cat hair. There. Isn't that cute? Love it. And again, you could do something on the inside. I probably will at some point, but just not right now because I want to give it some thought. So isn't that cute? So there's card number 1. So let's clean this up. Oh, I wanted to show you one thing on the envelope. So let me grab an envelope, and I'm going to take this die here. Now, this is such a cute idea. I saw this in the catalog, the way they did it. So I'm going to cut this out. So I've got my piece of that woodland, country woods, it's called. And I'm going to cut that out sort of in the middle. So we have like a little frame. And on the envelope, all right, so I've got my envelope, and I'm going to grab a blending brush. Okay, I've got a blending brush and my Granny Apple Green ink. I'm just going to squeeze my case so that I get a little bit of ink on there. And there's not a lot of water in my painter's brush, so I'm just going to spritz a bit of water on there and create like a water wash. I could use my blenders, but the blenders will go right through the paper, which isn't what you want. Because you don't necessarily want to see it on the inside. I just want a bit of color back here. Is that going to be enough? It is. Okay, perfect. I'm going to let that dry for a minute. And I'm just going to grab a towel. I'm just going to clean my brush. There. I just want to take the color out of the pen. Alrighty. So that's pretty dry. So now I'm going to take my tape runner and I'm just going to go along the edge of the envelope here, top and bottom, and a bit on the sides. Now this is probably still not 100% dry, but that's okay. There, and then I'm going to line this up right along the fold of the flap of the envelope here. And I'm going to cut away the excess. Beautiful. So there's your envelope. Isn't that pretty? Beautiful, beautiful. So there's card number 1. Okay, so for card number 2, we are going to do this beautiful little card featuring the Everyday Arches bundle. Isn't that pretty? I love this. So let me grab my kit. All right, so here's our kit. So what you need for this is either a 12-inch by 4-inch piece of garden green. I didn't have any 12-inch garden green, so I have 8.5 by 4, and then a 4, no, sorry, 8.5 by 3.5, I think. Yeah, 8.5 by 3.5, and then 3.5 by 4. So, and I've scored it. Let me grab my trimmer here. So I have my 8.5 by 3.5, and I've got it scored at 1/2 inch, and then at 4.5. So 1/2 inch and 4.5. And then we're going to glue this piece to the other piece so that we have a piece that's 3.5 by 12. So again, if you have 12-inch paper, that's super. There. So I've just glued that together, and now I'm going to do like a Z fold, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish my folds and make sure that everybody's straight. And do the same thing on this side, make everybody straight. Beautiful. Okay, so that's our card base. Next I have, I'm going to turn it that way. Next I have 3 of the arches in soft sea foam. Now the Everyday Arches is a fabulous, fabulous bundle. And I noticed in the new catalog, is it the new catalog? Or maybe online, I'm not 100% sure which. There's another stamp set coming out that coordinates with these dies. So for this one, I used the 2nd largest and the 3rd largest arches for the cards. So for the soft seafoam, I used the 2nd largest, and I cut out 3 of the arches. And then using the 3rd largest, I cut out 2 pieces of designer series paper and 1 piece of basic white. So this is the second largest, and this is the third largest of the arches, okay? I'll put these back. So if you have a stamping positioner, this would be a great time to use that. Stamparatus would do, the Altenew stamping wheel would do, like whatever you have is perfect. Any kind of stamping positioner, or you can just use your stamps. But I just find for myself, I like to stamp things 2 times. So, and then this way you know that you're going to get your stamp just right. So entirely up to you, of course. So I'm going to take the one that says, "You are simply fantastic." And this is actually the birthday card that I sent to my sister, but I used the lavender, what's it called? The lavender designer paper. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. So I'm using this to line it up. And then this was great because once it was lined up, then everybody in the class could just come over, use the stamping tool, and go ahead and do it that way. So I'm going to grab my basic black, not basic black, Memento. And again, this is Memento. When you buy the Memento, it looks like this. Okay. So let me ink it up. I'm going to give it a little quick stamp. But you see how beautiful that stamp first time? Now it's still a little bit light for me. I like it really crisp and dark. So I am going to go ahead and do it a second time. But really, I'd be happy with that. You don't need to. They're so beautiful. All right, now for the inside, let me just clean that off. I've got a little baby wipe here. I don't typically use baby wipes because sometimes, depending on the brand, they will leave lint on your stamps, which drives me a little bananas. But so let me put this one away. And then I'm using Everyday Details, which is a red rubber stamp. So the dynamic of this in the stamping tool is a little bit different because when you're using photopolymer, I do like to use this sticky mat, which is about 1/8 of an inch thick. However, I'm not about to peel it off and then try and, I'm just going to pop this right on here and it's going to work just fine. But if I was doing a whole bunch of stamping with a red rubber stamp, I would take this mat off. There. Okay, so this says wishing you much joy on this special day. So I want to make sure that it's centered. And straight. Looks pretty straight. Okay, so I'm going to ink it up. And give it another stamp. Beautiful. Okay, so that's the inside of this card. Okay, so where is my card? So let's start assembling. So for these guys, these are going to line up like this. I still have some stamping to do, but we'll do that in a second. So this is going to go like this. Now, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and layer these right away. And this just nestles right in here, like this. So there's that one. Oh, and this designer series paper, Floral Delight. It's called Floral Delight. And this is the paper here. Look how pretty they are. Really, really beautiful. I've used so much of this already. It's crazy. Okay, so those are those two. And then the white one is going to go onto here. So let's go ahead and put some glue on there. And for this, I'm using the Stampin' Seal Plus. I really, really like this. It's easy to manage. Goes on beautifully. And it's very, very strong. Okay, all right. So when you're lining these up, what I did with mine was I centered the first one, and I'm just going to put some glue along the bottom half here. And then I'm going to center it like, kind of like that, so that my 3 margins are basically the same. There, beautiful. And then my next one is going to go here. So what I did with this is I lined it up like this, face to face with the front one. Put some glue. Oh, that didn't work. And so I'm going to line this up like this. And then just fold that right over. Beautiful. And then the same thing with this one. I'm going to go ahead and line that up. Like that. There. So now when you fold it, it's all going to be lined up. Isn't that great? Super simple. All right, so let's do some more stamping. So I do have a piece of basic white that is 4 by just over 2.5. And then I have another piece of basic white that is 2 by 4, and I've put some adhesive sheet at the back. And I've done the same thing with a piece of black that is 2 by 4. And then I also have a sentiment strip, 1 in white, 1 in black. And we're going to cut those out using the dies from the Delightful Wishes. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to stamp out my little flowers right here, and I'm going to use Daffodil Delight and crushed curry. So I'm going to go ahead and do this full flower in Daffodil Delight, like that. And then I'm going to take the detail one in crushed curry, and I'm going to line it up. Probably like this. Yeah, because you know, these two little guys, these ones right here, go on this little flower right here. That's how I remember which way this goes. Otherwise, you could just about stand on your head trying to line these up. And again, it's like a watercolor. If it's not perfect, who cares? There, beautiful. Look at how pretty that is. Woo, love it. Okay. All right, and then, oh, stuck my finger in it. I do that a lot. Okay, so we don't need those. Let's get that out of the way. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the stamp set that says "You a Happy Birthday," because we're going to be cutting out the word wishing. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we are going to stamp "You a Happy Birthday." Any piece of scrap will do. I just happen to have that one. Let me grab a bigger block here, like that. And I'm going to grab my memento. Okay, and I'm just going to line that up right in the middle. So I've got my little mini here. And I'm going to, now actually if I used my big one, I could probably cut them all out at the same time, but that's okay. So for the white, I'm going to be using the outline of the word wishing. So I'm going to pop that right on there. And then, is that going to work? May or may not. I'm going to try and have that there. I'm sticking to the adhesive sheet. And I'm going to line this up like this. So there is our little banner in white. There's our word wishing. So we can just pop that right out. And this does have the adhesive sheet on the back, so that's going to be really easy to pop on our card. And then we have our piece of black with the adhesive on it. So we're going to run that through, and then we're also going to run through another one of these little frames in the black. And there's our little black frame. And then our word wishing. Now when you have your black one, the black one is the one that has the little tittles for the eyes. You do not want to lose those guys. So what I'm going to do right away is pop them out. Did I lose it already? So here's one. And isn't that weird? I just had it. All right, well, I'm going to do the one that I can find because I don't want to lose that one. That's right here. I'm just going to peel the backing off. Like that. And I'm going to pop that right on here. There. So there's that one. Oh, and there's my other one. Okay, good. So I'm just going to pop the backing off. A little tedious, but it's worth it. Okay, and I'm going to pop that one right over here. Can you see what I'm doing yet? There. Okay. And then the word wishing is going to go right on top of that. So let's peel the backing off of that one. There we go. And then this is going to go just on here. Like that. If you purchased a kit from me, I will already have glued your tittles down, because if you lose them, then you don't have them. And also keep in mind that when you do purchase card kits from me, we are not, by our contract with Stampin' Up, we're not allowed to stamp them for you. The onus is on you to use something that you have or to purchase the kit that we're using, unfortunately, but that's the law of Toyland, so sorry about that. All right, so we've got that done, and what I can do too here is put a little bit of glue on here. And I'm going to offset the happy birthday like this. Just a tiny bit. Offset it like that. There we go. And then the next thing we have to cut out is our floral. And this is going to cut out in many pieces, not just one big piece. So let's tape this guy together. And then I need to grab a little piece of early espresso, and we're gonna I'll show you how to put some double-sided adhesive on it to make our tree branch. So that's gonna go through here. Whoa. Like that. So here are our flowers. So that's that. Isn't this a simple card? There's a lot of steps, but it's super easy. All right, so that's gonna go there. And then the next thing I need is a little piece of early espresso. But you know what I do have is pecan pie. So I'm just gonna use a piece of pecan pie. So I have a card base here in pecan pie. I'm just gonna cut it up and use it. So I only need, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches. That's 2 inches, but doesn't matter. And then I need the adhesive sheets. There. So to use the adhesive sheets, it's really, really easy. So it comes in 12 by 6 sheets. I forget how many you get in a package. It's quite a bit. 12 sheets you get of 12 by 6. So it's quite a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is, you can see that it's scored here. I'm going to lift up a piece and fold it out of the way. And then lift up another piece and fold it out of the way. And take that piece of cat hair off. Oh, the joys of being a cat mama. Cat hair on everything. There we go. And I'm just going to lift up this corner as well. Now this is super sticky, so be prepared to be a little sticky when you're done. All right, so I've got my adhesive sheet is now exposed. So I'm going to line up my cardstock with the adhesive sheet and press it down, and then I'm going to take my carrier sheet and press it down all the way around. And then now I can go ahead and just cut out my shape that I need. So I've just got my little cardstock here. And I save all my little pieces, like even a little piece like this. You could use this for a little word, or to stick like a little banner somewhere. And then when you peel off your carrier sheets, you now have a piece of like a sticker. You've just made a sticker. So I'm going to pop this back in my envelope here. And I just store mine like this on my shelf with my designer series paper, and I have a little label. And these are just the We Are Memory Keepers 12 by 12 scrapbook page things. And that's how I store my my 12 by 12 cardstock as well. All right, so let's bring our cutting machine back in. And I'm going to put my pecan pie here. And my little branch die is going to go right on here. So here we go. All right. So let's pop this out of here. So when we pop this out, we now have a branch sticker. Super cute. Okay, so we have our card. And this is going to go kind of like that. Now, I think I would have liked it darker, except that I didn't have early espresso with me. So what I'm going to do is grab my early espresso. Oh, there is no early espresso. I'm going to grab my dark brown. This is number 100, the dark brown of the blends, because we don't have early espresso. And I'm just going to darken this because I think I'd like a darker one. I'm going to use the brush side. There, yeah, this will work a lot better. And this is an alcohol-based marker. It's going to dry really, really quick. There, beautiful. So now I have a brown branch, which is what I wanted. I'm just going to take a bit of alcohol and clean that up. Beautiful. Okay. All right, let's get this thing together. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my wishing right here like that. So let's peel off the back. So I love adhesive sheets, I'm telling you. There we go. So I'm just going to pop that like that. Beautiful. And then this is going to go on mini dimensionals. So let me grab those. Take your pick, take your pick. Oh, I threw my take your pick tool and the die in the garbage. No wonder I lose dies. Jeepers creepers. Okay, so I'm just going to pop a mini dimensional there. And there, and then one right in the middle. Like that. Can't believe I did that. Jeepers. It's just a little basket that I keep my trash in on my desk. It's a little basket like that, and it's, can you imagine if I had just dumped it into my recycling bin? I never would see those things again. All right, so this is just going to go here like that. And then I've got my branch. So we'll just peel that off. There. All right, so this is going to go kind of like this. There, so cute. All right, do I have all my flowers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm missing one. That's all right, we'll find it. Okay, so I'm just going to put glue onto our flowers, because I don't want to put them on dimensionals because they will, I think it'll be too thick. So I'm just going to pop this one here like this. This guy down here. I don't know where my other flower went to. So I'm just going to pop this one up here then. No, you know what? I'm not, because I know that I'll find my other flower. I'll just leave it. So I'm just going to pop this right here. Like that. Beauty. And I also have some of the mini bees that are in the current catalog. Or they may be online exclusives, I'm not sure. But they are certainly available. So I've got my little, no, this is an older one. These are the bumblebee trinkets that I had left over from last year, from the Bee Mine or whatever it was called. And then I have the new ones, which is the tiny bee trinkets. And look at how cute and little they are. Oh my goodness. So I I just use the little ones, but I found these when I was looking for something the other day, and I found these bigger ones, and honestly, I love them. So let me grab my glue dots. And I'm just going to pop a glue dot on the back of that big bee. I'm just folding it in half with my Take Your Pick tool. And then I'm just going to pop it on the back of the bee. Like that. So there's my big bee. And here I have a little bee. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to squish up a glue dot and put it on the back of the little bee. Like that. There. Woo! How cute. Super, super cute. If you wanted to, you could put Wink of Stella on these flowers. Just a little. Also keep in mind that Wink of Stella is alcohol based, so it will blend your stamping just a smidgen, but that's okay. There, beautiful. So there's card number 2. Isn't that adorable? Now, it was time consuming. There's a lot of steps, but if you're making a bunch of them, just go ahead and cut everything out and then just do like assembly style. So that's card number 2. Super cute. Okay, so now on to card number 4. So this is card number 4 here. And we gold embossed, heat embossed our floral here. And I used the what's this called? The Distressed Tile embossing folder. Let me put something dark behind that so you can see what it looks like. There, isn't that pretty? Beautiful. So we use that on the first layer, and then the second layer we cut out with the textured note dies. These dies are phenomenal. I absolutely love them. I didn't buy the textured note stamps at first, but now I've ordered them, and I'm hoping that I took advantage of the free shipping, so I'm hoping that they'll be here. I'm with the grandkids next week, but by the time I get back, next weekend, they'll be here, so I'll be excited about that. Oh, here comes a cat. Maybe not. Okay, so why don't we get started with this? This is a really simple card. There are a few steps. We're going to color with the layering masks as well. Uh-oh, cat. Where you go? Where you go? Yeah, you're in my way. Okay, off you go. Go scoot. Out you go. Go on. There, just shut the door so you'll probably hear her banging on it at some point. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our flowers. So I need my stamp positioner, and I have a piece of basic white that is, well, it's probably 4 by 5 1/4, because that's what I cut my cardstock down to basically all the time. So I'm going to grab the first thing I need to do is use my embossing buddy. And the embossing buddy comes with this little kit. This kit is phenomenal. So you get the little tray, an embossing buddy, tweezers for when you're embossing, and a brush to clean off your tray or your card or whatever. So the first thing that's really, really important, especially if you're going to be using a darker embossing powder, is you want to use the embossing buddy. And what that does is it'll remove any oily fingerprints or any static. So trust me, if you haven't used it, you'll know. You'll know immediately that you haven't used it. So I'm going to use this floral. And it doesn't matter where you position it on here, because we're going to cut it out anyway. So let me pick it up. Oops. I don't have a sticky mat in this one. I'll just use my magnet. Okay, so I'm going to use my Versamark. I have it scooched right in the corner in case I have to re-ink it. So I'm inking it up really well with the Versamark. Versamark is just a clear ink that is very slow drying, so it's perfect for using with embossing powders. So let me see how that looks. I hope I don't have to redo it. So you probably can't see. I can see it just a little bit with the light shining on it, but you can see the images there. So let's grab our tray and our gold embossing powder. I just get these little containers at the dollar store. I just find it's easier than dealing with the little jars. But the jars are fine. There. So I'm going to be very generous with my embossing powder because you're going to put whatever doesn't adhere, you're going to stick it back in the jar anyway. So it doesn't matter. There. So there we have our card with the embossing powder on it. A little bit there. Okay, beautiful. Oops, I missed a spot. There, lovely. Okay, so let me put the lid back on this because the last thing we need is a embossing embossing powder spill. I've had those and it's not great. Okay, so let me grab my heat tool. And I'm just going to let it heat up for a second. A little bit of embossing powder on my desk. I don't want to keep it there for sure. If it melts, it's there forever. There, I don't know if this will reach to the camera. I think so. So you can watch how it goes from dark to shiny. And when it's all shiny, you know it's ready. You want to keep your heat tool moving so that you don't scorch anything. And you will know if you did scorch it, it'll go flat again. It goes from shiny, goes from flat to shiny, and then if you overheat it, it'll go back to flat. I learned that one the hard way. There, so you can see now it's all shiny. Beautiful. Okay. So now I'm going to move that out of the way, and I'm going to grab my my coloring masks. So the matching masks for this, they're called the Thankful Garden mask. This is called Thankful Garden. And there are 5 different masks. There's 2 sets of flowers on here, so you can see there's the bigger flower here. We're using this one, obviously. And so we're going to start with number 1. That's number 5. That's number 2. Okay, there's number 1. That's number 3. Okay, so this is, I'm just going to put a little bit of, just going to grab a piece of cardstock here that I can stick this to. So I'm just going to take a little bit of tape here, and I'm going to glue it because I don't want it shifting, and then I'm going to tape this to my glass mat. If you don't have a glass mat, I highly recommend it. I didn't have one before, and now I think I have 3 of them, all different companies. 2 of them are Stampin' Up, and 1 is from somebody gave to me because they weren't using it. And so if I have people over to craft, I have a couple that we can share, you know, it's great. But if you don't have one, I highly recommend it. Okay, so your stamping masks all come with this little groove at the top left corner, and they're numbered. I don't know if you can see the number there. Yeah, sort of. That's a 1. So the first time you use it, you might have to sort of stand on your head a little bit to figure out which way it goes. But that's how it goes. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little line here so that I kind of know the angle that I need to put my mask for the next layer. And I know that the little groove is in the top left-hand corner. Now, if you want to, you can tape this down. Typically, I use a sticky mat when I'm doing this, and my mask sticks to the sticky mat. But just in case you don't have a sticky mat, I just want to show you how easy it is. The first color I'm going to use is Daffodil Delight. And I'm not sure what color was on my brush. This is probably Crushed Curry because we were using these brushes at class the other day. So, there, beautiful. So I'm going to do the first 2 layers in Daffodil Delight. Let's make sure that that's where I need it to be. And I'm just going to tap off. There's kind of a inky blobby thing when you're first starting out. So I always tap it off on my stencil. And then I'm just going to go in quite lightly with the Daffodil Delight. And I just have a nice, and it's not even, which I put a little bit more pressure here and there because I want it to have a little bit of shading and things. So sometimes I'll go in a little bit darker on the edges like this. There, just like that, a little bit of shading. Isn't that pretty? Gorgeous. Okay, so that's layer number 1. So then we'll go to mask number 2, and I've got my angle here, and I know that this goes in the top left corner. So all we have to do is follow that angle and then shift this over to where it needs to be for our second layer. And again, I'm going to use Daffodil Delight, so I'm going to use the same color. And I'm just going to go in a little bit heavier handed, but not too much. I had never really used masks until, maybe 6 months ago, or I guess when Stampin' Up! First brought the first set of masks out. And I was a little bit intimidated because I had never used them before, but I'm addicted. I wish they would come out with tons of them. But look at this. Look at how pretty that is. Here, let me zoom in a smidge. But that's all the same color, but look at the depth. Amazing. Amazing, amazing. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to Crushed Curry. And I'm going to bring in my little mat here because my ink is going all over the place. There. This will hold my ink pads a little bit more steady. So I need mask number 3. And same thing, it's going to follow this line. And I know that this little wedge goes in the top right-hand corner. So all I have to do is shift this over until it looks like it lines up. And it does. Beautiful.
Motion detected at the front door.
So I think Glenn just put the cat out. Okay, so now I've got my Crushed Curry and I tap off the blob, and then I'm just going to go in lightly because it is a darker color. I don't want a ton of color. I just want a little bit. And look at that. Isn't that stunning? Oh, I tell you, I could do this all day long. And my little granddaughter, who just turned 5, when she was here last summer, she kept saying, "Grandma, let's go do flowers." She was as happy as a clam coming down into my craft room and doing just basic stenciling. She just thought that was the grandest thing. All right, so same thing. Even though it's now the leaves, the stencil is still in the same orientation. And for the leaves, I'm going to use Granny Apple Green and Lemon Lime Twist. So I think in the class we maybe just, no, I think we used both. I can't remember. I think we used both. So I'm just going to clean off my brush because I'm sure the darker one is on top of the brush. Okay, and I'm just going to ink it up with the lemon lime twist. There, I've got it all lined up. Tap off my blob, and I'm just going to come in very lightly with the lemon lime twist. And careful that, you know, you have, if say you weren't cutting it out, you do have an opening here. So if you want to mask it off, if you're going to be doing a big piece and you're a little bit exuberant, you might want to mask that off. All right, so there's that. And I'm just going to go in a little bit at the bottom of the leaves and give it a little bit more color. There. So even that, just the way it is perfectly fine. So now I'm going to bring in number 5, and that will go, oops, get my angle right here. That will go right here. And I'm going to switch over to Granny Apple Green. And Granny is quite a bit darker than the lemon lime twist, so I'm going to be light-handed. I don't want to have a really dark accent on this. I just want it to show a little bit. Tap off my blob, and I'm just going to go in lightly because it is a darker color. Whoops. There. Isn't that stunning? I love it. Okay, so that is the coloring for that. There. Now, if this is kind of sticky and you don't want it sticking to your cutting plate, just take your embossing buddy and just tap it onto the adhesive, and that will take all the sticky right off. Okay, so let me grab my big boss here. So let's line up our die, and I am going to tape it down because my paper got a little bit warped when I was doing the heat embossing. All right, put a piece there. A little piece over here. And you can notice I'm not putting tape on my colored part. I don't want that to risk tearing, even though that's a low tack tape, I don't want to risk having it tear the color, because the color has ink on it and it may lift the color. So there is our flower. Isn't that gorgeous? So the next thing I need to do, we might as well do all of our cutting while we're at it. So let's get rid of that. And we need some leaves in Granny Apple Green. So I have a piece of Granny Apple Green that is 2.5 by 3, I guess. Doesn't matter, it's just a scrap. And I'm just going to cut out one of these leaves like that. Okay, so we're going to put this aside. We have this now. There. And we also need a piece of basic white. So we're going to use just a basic piece of basic white. And we're going to cut this out with the textured note frames. And I'm using, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I think the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the fifth smallest. So we're going to cut that out just like that. And when you're cutting out a rectangular frame like this, sometimes if you put it on an angle, you get less of a speed bump kind of thing going on. It's a little bit easier to cut out if you have it on an angle like that. So I'm just going to cut that out like this. Look at that. Look at how pretty that is. I just love these dies. They are so, so, so gorgeous. Okay, so let's grab another piece of basic white because we have to emboss it. And this is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I will emboss it first and trim it later. So this is a 3D embossing folder. So what that means is it's a little bit thicker when it's 3D. So in order to emboss with a 3D embossing folder, you can see on your platform here, it tells you exactly what you need to do. So you just need platform 1, which is this one, and then the gray platform, which is platform 4. So let me grab my platform 4, and we're going to line up our embossing folder. And what I typically do is I use this line at the front just so that I know it's straight. Now, this is kind of random, so I'm not sure it matters if it's all that straight, but I like it straight. So I just lined it up with the line. Then I'm going to place it hinge side first into the plate and then run it through. If you're not using good quality cardstock or using one that's maybe a little bit thicker, go ahead and give it a little spray with water just to soften the fibers and you'll get a nice emboss. But look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, I find the lighting in here, I never seem to get a good... There, you can see it. Beautiful. Okay, I think we're done with this for now. We're going to need it again in a minute, but I think we're okay for a couple of minutes. So let's put this aside, and I'm going to trim this embossed piece to 3 3/4 by 5. Now, you could keep this piece and put it on the inside of the card. That would look really pretty. So 3 3/4 by 5. And now we can start layering our card. So my card base is here. Just gonna grab this. So this is what I showed you in the last card. If you just line up all your corners against this raised edge, you'll get a nicer card base. Like that. And then this is going to sit right on here, like this. Hard to know which side is prettier. I kind of like the debossed. I don't know. Yeah, keep the debossed. We'll put the embossed side down. All right, so that's going to go right in the middle. So what I did with this is I took the floral stamp and I put it on a larger block, and then I just took some Pool Party. There, so I just have a piece of scrap paper here, and I'm going to stamp the floral. I'm going to stamp it off and then stamp just on here, just to give it a little bit of color so you can see how faint that is. It looks really pretty. I'm just going to go ahead and glue this right onto here. Now I'm being a little heavier handed with the glue because the embossing, you know, you have dipped areas and raised areas, you want it to really stick there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this here. I'm going to take some Granny Apple Green, and I'm just going to lightly add a little bit of color to these leaves. Just a bit, just to do some shading there. So let's pop this flower up on some dimensionals. There. Alrighty. I'm just going to pop that right on here. Like that. And then for my leaves, I'm just going to cut this And then this one is going to go here, like that. And then we'll put the single one over on this side, on this card. Maybe like this. Isn't that cute? So let's pop a bit of glue on the back of these. Just gonna slide that right in there. Okay, and then same on this guy. There, super cute. Okay, so now we have our piece of basic black, and I'm going to be embossing Just Because on here, and the Just Because is from the Fancy Borders, one of the sentiments on the Fancy Borders. So let's go ahead and grab that. And we need our embossing buddy. Now you're going to say, oh, but you can see the embossing powder on the black. Yes, you can. And then once it's cooled and hardened, you just take a microfiber cloth or a paper towel and then just wipe it off. And it will disappear. All right, so I've got Just Because, I've got my Versamark ink. And pop that right in the middle. And then I've got my white embossing powder. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and, oops, I have gold in here. And then there. Just Because. I'll grab my heat tool. There, you can see it changing color. Beautiful. Great. So now I'm going to take my microfiber cloth and I'm just going to brush off my embossing powder. Or not embossing powder, my, what do you call it? Embossing buddy. There, nice and black again. Okay, so I need, in my textured note dies, there's a long, skinny little die here. And I'm going to put it like this. Let me grab my mini here. Okay, so I'm going to place this here and pop a little bit of tape on there just because I don't want it to shift. Okay, so let's run that through. So you can see that this is a huge die for what I'm doing. However, watch this. I'm going to put the die this way now. And these little stitch marks will actually line up with the stitch marks that are in the other half. So I can line these guys up because there's a pattern and they'll nestle there. They've nestled into there, and I'm just gonna, so I just gave it a little shift and it popped right down into the pre-cut little die cuts there. So now I can just pop this on here like this, and there we have our little die cut. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop a dimensional on either side of this. And then that's our card basically. There, so I'm just going to pop this right over here, a little bit over to the left, but my dimensional is hitting the flower there. There, super cute. All right, so let's grab some embellishments. Maybe these gold ones. This is the Strawberry Slush and Gold little embellishments. These are new. These will be available. Oh, here's my other flower that we lost. Good. I can fix my other card. So these embellishments will be available May 6th. But I'm going to use the gold ones. Just to go with the gold embossing. Pop that right there. Isn't that pretty? So then on the inside, now again, as you know, I don't often finish the inside until I'm ready to send it, but I think today I might. So I'm gonna grab my flower again. Oh, it's got blue on it. I better clean it. Oh, that could have been bad. I'm gonna pool party all over it. There. So I'm going to. I'm just going to stamp it with some Daffodil Delight, but I'm going to stamp it off first, I think. So I'm going to stamp it off once, and then just stamp it on the inside of the card. So I just have a very faint yellow little flower there. It's hard to see. Oh, there you go. Just on the inside, and then you can still write a note or stamp, you know, whatever sentiment that you want. If you decide that, you know, you need it to be a get well card or a thinking of you card, like, you know, sympathy or whatever, then you can go ahead and do that. Okay, so that is gonna go in the middle. Like this. So we could put the long one here and just give it a little trim. I need to cut off about 1/4 of an inch. And we could glue that right along there just to finish it off. Yeah, why not? There. Isn't that pretty? Love it. Okay, so that's card number 3. And then card number 4 is also a little bit labor intensive, but it's worth it. Again, we're going to use the same colors that we used before. We're going to a lot of the same techniques as well. So here's our kit. So our card base is Pool Party. And I have a basic black that is 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have a basic white that is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And that's going to sit right here like this. And then I have a 4 by 5 1/4 that's going to go on the inside. Excuse me. And then I have a piece of this printed floral and gingham vellum. And these are the 4 sheets that you get. Are they gorgeous? And we're using this one here. First thing we need to do, we have a lot of cutting to do, but the first thing I want to do is stamp off our flower. So let me grab my positioner again. And I'm going to take the piece of basic white that is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. I'm just going to use Memento and I'm going to ink it up and just give it a stamp. Like that. Now my original card that I did, this one here, is not black. It was actually the Secret Sea, and the ink was Secret Sea as well. Unfortunately, I don't have any left. My order hasn't arrived yet with my pre-order for the Secret Sea, so thus I'm using black. But really, I used the Secret Sea, and it was just a hint off the black. Like here's black. I don't know if you can tell. Yeah, you can tell a little bit. So this is black and this is Secret Sea. There's just a slight difference, but this to me is richer. It's so, so pretty. I can't wait to get my order so that I can have more, because that's all I have. Okay, so let's give this a clean and we'll put it aside. And actually, I do have another little piece here. I'm going to stamp, I didn't really need to clean it because I want to stamp another little flower. I just want to stamp this flower. So dry that off. And I'm just going to put this maybe like that. Let's see where that's going to stamp. Yep, perfect. Because I just want to have an extra flower to cut out. Perfect. Okay. Alrighty. I'm going to need my masks again to color. All right, so I've got my masks over here, but I'm going to do them in the yellow again. All right, so I've got my Daffodil Delight. All right, so let's ink up the Daffodil Delight and very lightly tap off your blobby and then just lightly give it some yellow. So pretty. Ugh, love it. Oh, we're going to use the yellow again for stencil number 2. This is great. You know, I'm not a great colorer with markers. So when there's a stencil that does all the work for me, I'm on it. Okay, so there's stencil number 2. I'm going to use Daffodil Delight again. Okay, and I'm just going to go in a little bit heavier, but I am putting a second layer, so it is going to look heavier anyway. So pretty. There, see the difference? Amazing. Okay, and then for layer number 3, I don't know if I'll use the, oh, I'm going to come in here with the crushed curry. Tap off my blobby. And I'm not heavy-handed because crushed curry is quite dark. I'm just giving it a little bit of texture there. There, wow. Okay, so that's the floral part. And now we're going to switch to the leaves. So I'm going to grab my Granny Apple Green. No, Lemon Lime Twist, I guess. I'll just clean off the Granny a little bit and ink it up with the Lemon Lime Twist. I don't have brushes for all of the different colors. I just have them for the color groups. And, you know, that works for me. It's fine. There. Tap off the blobby. Lemon Lime Twist. I'm going to go in lightly. A little bit darker sometimes in the corners. Oh, that is so pretty. And then with the detail, I might just stick with Lemon Lime Twist because I like it. And I'll just add, like I'm adding a second layer of ink, so it's going to be darker anyway. We'll see what it looks like. If I don't like it, I can always add some Granny, right? So I'm sticking with the Lemon Lime Twist. There we go. Oh yeah. And that's just using the one color. I mean, that's amazing. I love it. Love it. Okay, so now we need to do this little guy. So let me grab my flowers again. No leaves on this one. And I just want the smaller flowers. So I'm going to line it up like this. Now when you're cleaning your stencils, you can see here that I've bent. You can see there's like a little crimp. I don't know if you can tell, but oh yeah, you can see that little black mark. That's like I bent it. So when I do lay it down, I try to remember to push it back where it needs to go. So just a light, oh, it moved. Yikes. Okay. A light layer of the daffodil. Oh my gosh. You know why? Because I'm only hanging on to the stencil. I'm not hanging on to the cardboard. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. Just a little bit of the Daffodil Delight. Layer number 2. All right, now second layer of the Daffodil Delight. And then the third layer with crushed curry. So this is going to go like this. There, gorgeous. Gorgeous. Okay, I'm just going to quickly clean these with some alcohol. And I'm going to bring out my cutting, my big boss here. And we have quite a bit of cutting to do, so we will get at it. All right, so to cut normal dies, you need your layer number 1 and layer number 2 and 2 number 3s. So these cutting plates are number 3, the clear cutting plates. So let's pop this here. And I've got my flower. I'm just going to throw a little bit of tape on there so it doesn't move. Okay, we'll hold that one there. And then I'm going to grab the other little flower and we're going to cut out this guy. I think it goes this way. Yep. Okay, so let's cut out that one. Oops. I don't want this under here because it will emboss the corner of that paper. So let's separate those. There, that's better. Okay. So here are our flowers, and we're going to retain this because that's going to be the front of our card. Now, if it doesn't, like I'm just teaching a technique to be frugal with your cardstock. You don't have to do it this way. If you have tons of cardstock and you don't mind cutting up extra pieces, knock yourself out. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't, but I think sometimes it's good to know that you can do this and conserve a little bit of paper, especially with the price of paper right now. Every little bit helps. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 leaf dies. I've already got the other one out here from before. And I'm going to take my basic black, and this is my second layer, okay? So I'm going to move this so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to cut these out, making sure that I have enough room, like at least 1/8 of an inch or more. And I'm going to cut this out like this. And this is what I did for the kits the people who couldn't attend and they had to pick up their kits. I pre-cut this for them so that they would know that this is also an option. Because often when you purchase a kit, you don't necessarily have the parts, right? Or the die set or whatever. So I'm happy to do the die cutting for you when you purchase the kit. There. Okay, so there's 2. And we need another set of 2. So I'm going to pop this here. And maybe I'll do it this way. And if you're cutting off the tail part of this leaf, excuse me, it does not matter because it's going to be covered up anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and cut this. Okie doke. And then we just have one more thing to cut out, and that is our sentiment. So I've got my black piece here for my sentiment. Now usually I will stamp and emboss my sentiment before I cut it out, but I'm going to be a rebel today and cut it out first. So I'm using here Stylish Shapes. If you don't have this, this is the best like starter set of dies ever. And even when it retires, I am not giving it up. No, you know what? I'm not going to cut this out because we're heat embossing it, and I need something to hang on to. So I've changed my mind. I'm not going to cut it out quite yet. All right, so let me grab my trimmer. I'm going to fold my cardstock and pop it in the corner here. There we go. All right, so the first thing to go down is the black. So that is going to sit right there. So let's go ahead and glue that up. This bottle is on its last legs, I think. All right, so I'm going to center that like that. I'm not too concerned about these guys because this next layer is going to hold that down like this. So I'm going to do the same thing on this one, but I'm going to be a little bit more generous with the glue. I'm going to go around the flower. And then fill in these areas because I don't want it to buckle. Okay, and then that is going to go right in there. And I just have a very small little margin here. It's like a 1/16 of an inch. It is not cooperating. Here we go. There. Okay, so the next layer that we're putting down is the vellum. And you can, as you can see through the vellum. And the other thing about the vellum is that if you put adhesive on it, not necessarily the printed ones may be a little bit more forgiving, but the clear one, if you put adhesive behind it, you are going to see it. So I'm going to take my Seal Plus, and I'm just going to put Seal Plus in the middle like this. The rest of it's going to be covered up, so it doesn't matter. Can you hear Georgie banging on the door? She hates it when I shut the door on her. Okay, so I'm going to line this up in the center as well. Beautiful. So you can see, can you see how you can see the rows of adhesive? So that's why I only did it in the center, because I know that it's going to be covered. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is layer my leaves. So let me pop these out. And the thing about vellum, which I love vellum, I wish Stampin' Up! Hadn't retired the vellum. However, you can get vellum anywhere. You can get it at Staples, you can probably get it at Walmart, definitely at the big box stores, anywhere. I have tons of it. Like, I knew that it was retiring, so I bought 2 packs of it because I use vellum quite a bit. And I didn't want to not have any. So there's my 4 sets of leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place them like this. So you can use glue dots if you want to. You can use your seal. I kind of don't recommend using liquid because it tends to, um, it takes forever to dry. It doesn't absorb into the vellum is what I'm trying to say. And it stays too liquidy. So I'm gonna put these 3 on first and then go from there. So let's go ahead and put my seal on here. I'm just going to pop that here. I put my silicone mat away. I shouldn't have. I should be using it. Oh well. Georgie is not happy that I didn't invite her in. There. So I don't have a ton on there, but it's enough to hold it in place. So let me put that there. And then I'm going to put this one down. Come on. Oh, I saw the cutest thing yesterday. My daughter sent me pictures of the little people in their graduation gowns. Isla is graduating from senior kindergarten to grade 1, and Aiden is graduating from daycare to junior kindergarten. And Isla is sitting there with her flowers, and she just looks so prim and proper. And then the picture of Aiden is he's counting something on his fingers. He's like totally out of it. He's such a boy. Oh my goodness. He reminds me of my son when my son was that age. He's so much like his uncle. We celebrated Aiden's 4th birthday last week, and it was so fun. If you didn't see my other video, we went to Medieval Times in Toronto. And so you sit at these big benches if you've never been. I had never been. I'm 71 and I've never been to Medieval Times. Can you imagine? So you sit at these big benches, and then they have these girls that come and they don't take your order because you get what they feed you. And every person, even the little kids, get a half a chicken and then a piece of corn and a baked potato. And then you can order like beer or wine, or, you know, they had some cocktails. I don't know what the heck they were, but they were in these glasses that had LED lights all in them. They were really cute. So we had a super time. A lot of fun. There, so I'm going to, I've got 2 dimensionals here, and what I'm doing is I'm pushing the dimensionals like right into the flower here so that this is overlapped like that. Or do I want to overlap? Do I want it? You know what? I'm going to put 3 dimensionals on it and have it right up like this. Is that going to work? I think I have to put a 2nd dimensional under this other dimensional, just to give it that extra boost, because the flower underneath is on a dimensional too. So that's what I'm going to do. There. So I've got that extra lift. That looks super pretty. So the next thing I did was, I was going to put a little bit of this, but I think I'm going to cut it. I'm just going to cut that off and just have a little bit sticking out here. Or do I even need that? I don't know if I even need that. Maybe just a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, maybe just a bit. This is all I'm going to use, this little tiny piece. So So put a bit of glue on there. Because the adhesive is wider than the leaf, I'm just folding it over like this. There. And then that's going to go like that. There. So the next thing I did was I used the pearlized enamel effects. And I just did a little bit of the black. So here's a little scrap. I'm just going to show you. So it comes out like it's like a semi-liquid. It comes out like almost like glue. And then you just touch it and it makes little dots. Like that. So I'm just going to do 3 in the middle of each flower. Like that. There. I don't know if you can see them. So this takes a few minutes to dry. I'm going to let it dry and then we're going to do our label. I've got so again, let me grab my embossing buddy. And you especially want to do it on a darker color when you're doing white embossing, because if you get embossing powder where you don't want it, you really see it. So I've got embossing powder on there. And I have my Versamark. And I'm using the Thanks from Impressions of Bloom. So let me grab a little block for that. There. So let me go ahead and ink that up. And I'm going to plunk it right in the middle. You want to put it in the middle because this die is quite large. There. And I'm going to put white embossing powder on it. There, perfect. So heat tool. Because this is a smaller piece, I am going to use my tweezers to hold it. Okay, we'll let it cool off for half a sec. And in the meantime, I'll just put this back in my jar. Now I can take my microfiber cloth and just wipe off the embossing powder, or the embossing buddy. There, you can see it's coming off quite nicely. And then now we can go ahead and cut this little guy out. There we go. Alrighty. So put this back so it doesn't end up in the garbage like my other one almost did. Can't believe I did that still. Jeez. Okay. And you can see my corners are lifting just a touch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a glue dot under there. I don't think that it's going to show. And I would rather have a little glue dot under there than have it lift like that. So I'm just going to pop a glue dot under there. And it doesn't show, it's fine. And I'm going to do the same one for the 2 top corners as well. I don't know why. My other card, it didn't lift at all. So unless I wonder if there's like a right side and I'm sure there is, a right side and a wrong side to the vellum. And one side curls and one side does not curl. It's like when you're sewing with knits, one side, it will always curl to the wrong side. because sometimes it's hard to tell what's the right side and what's not the right side. There. Woo, look at that. Okay, so we need some dimensionals. And I'm just going to pop a couple on here. I think I'm going to pop them more to the one side so that I can have it laying over the floral like this. My flower on this card is a little bit lower than it was on the other flower, but that's okay. Doesn't matter. There. Look at that. And then you've got your little dots from the enamel effects. Now on this one, I did put enamel effects on the thanks, and then they kind of got squished because I forgot that they were still drying and I popped them in the bag. So they're a little bit flatter, but actually what they look like is like a little nail, like the top of a nail. So maybe I'll do the same thing on this one. I'll just have to remember that I've put the enamel dots on here. So I'll just put a dot here. And it comes out like a little ice cream cone, but it will settle. It'll settle into a dot. It's self-leveling. There. Isn't that pretty? There. So those are the 4 cards. Oh, I should fix this one with my other flower that we had lost. See, I almost stuck my finger in that. Good Lord. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on this flower so that we can finish this card. There. Okay, so here are our 4 cards. We have, so this was the first one that we did with the matching envelope, using the fancy border dies. Isn't that gorgeous? And then we did a fancy envelope. So that was card number 1. And then card number 2 was this one. I love this. Beautiful. And card number 3 with the embossing and using the textured notes. Is that what they're called? Textured notes. Dies. And the distressed tile embossing 3D folder. So there's that one. And then our 4th card is this one that is still drying. And then on the inside, I didn't do anything on the inside. I should. Let's. Okay. I'm going to take a piece of 4 1/4 by 5, 4 by 5 1/4. I still have this sitting in my platform, so I'm just going to take some Pool Party. And I'm going to stamp the flower in Pool Party. And I'm going to do what I did on the other card too. I'm going to stamp it off. So let's ink it up. Now Pool Party is pretty light, but still. I just want a hint of it there. Okay, so I'm going to stamp it off. And I'm going to stamp it in the middle. There. So there's the inside of our card. And that will go right in the middle. Now I have to be really careful. I don't want to touch my little dots yet because they haven't hardened. It takes about a half an hour, a little bit longer. I'm going to be really careful how I place that in here. There. So there's the inside with our little faded floral in there. And I could do a sentiment, but depending on who I send this to, I will stamp something in there, probably in black on top of the flower. So here you have this month's card club, and I hope you've enjoyed them. I hope you try them. So thanks for watching, and if you see something that you like in here and you don't have a demonstrator, I'd be more than happy to help you place an order, or if you're local to me, I can place it on my order, and you know, you can pick it up here. But don't forget too that with every order over $25, you do earn Stampin' rewards. So yeah, it's a win-win. Alrighty, well, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so. And if you'd like to subscribe to my newsletter, just go to my blog, crittersandink.com, and you will see a pop-up to sign up for my newsletter. Thanks again. Have a super afternoon, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.